All right, so tonight we have on Paul Phipps, and he's got a Bigfoot tale to tell us, and hopefully some more entertaining tales. So let's welcome Paul to the room. How you doing, Paul?
Thank you, everybody. It's good to be here tonight.
Yeah. So I know we've talked on the phone, and my wife wanted me to tell you hi for her.
Hello.
And so I know you had an encounter, with actual visual encounter, when you were younger. And so would you like to start with that, or do you?
Sure. Yeah, let me just throw in some background information.
Oh, hell yeah.
I was born in Yakima, Washington.
Were you really?
Yeah. My folks split up just slightly after I was born. I was told they got back together, and then I had another brother, and then they split again. And Mom took us 5 boys up to Ellensburg, Washington, probably 45 minutes north of Yakima. And Ellensburg is a big livestock community. In fact, Mom, because of her training and skills, became the restaurant and bar manager for the Thunderbird Inn, which was a big place. Cattlemen would come in and get a room, and then they'd go to the cattle sales the next day and that kind of thing. And it was usually pretty wild nights there with the cowboys chasing whoever they could around. But Mom was in charge of all that. And us 5 boys, Mom was trying to think of ways to make better money and not work so hard. She's basically been on her feet all her life, was a gourmet chef, and was always doing restaurants, and she had a catering business. She had us boys running the groceries up and down the stairs to different places and all that stuff. But what was neat was she took us up to Ellensburg, and in trying to get a better living, she was going to try and be a realtor. So as she was training for that, Mom got into a bad car accident with a friend of hers, and Mom got a broken spine. She had to be in a body cast for about a year. So us 5 boys were in a single house with a lady lived in with us to watch over us named Thelma. Now, the name Thelma kind of brings up things in your mind, and well, all that would be true. she was a stern lady. My brother David would just drive her nuts. I had 3 older brothers and 1 younger brother, so I'm number 4 in the batch. And as this lady would light up a cigarette, my brother David would come up behind her and snip it off with scissors, and he would just drive her nuts. But so we're at this house. I remember, let's say if you're looking northward and you see the front of the house, the back of the house on the south side would be a giant livestock fence. And when I say livestock fence, I'm not thinking your regular cow corral, this, that, or the other thing. These had the railroad ties as the posts and had very large planks tied between those railroad ties for the fencing. So your average cow couldn't just knock this thing down. This was meant for bulls and all kinds of big cattle of some sort. So we were up against the back of that. Also, if you're looking straight on at the house, at the front of the house, off to the left side was an unattached, I would call it a carriage house garage. It's just something you could park a car in and close the door and walk around the house to get in the house. The entrance from the back would be on the east side of the house, but the garage was on the west side of the house. I thought that was kind of strange why they build a garage back there that you'd have to walk out one side of the house, come around the back and go to it. But whatever it was, that's what we had. So on a typical day, us, my 3 older brothers and myself would go out in the garage and play with some Tonka trucks or whatever we had out there. I remember this particular time of year, Mom she was in I would say probably a nursing home or a hospital or somewhere, in a body cast for almost a year, trying to get that back to heal up. And we got some I'd call them the Texaco oil tanker trucks. You remember those
Oh,
old
yeah.
red trucks?
Yeah.
Yeah. And so the three older brothers were heading out. Hey, Paul, you're going to come out in the garage and play toys with us? I said, yeah, I'll be out in a few minutes. And I don't remember what the holdup was, but I'm usually a straggler. So I headed.
Me too.
After a little while, I headed out the east side of the house, start walking around the back, and I get about to the middle of the back of the house, and I'm going, wait a minute, something's not right. And I looked out over the back fence and out in the field. This was a field of, had to be at least 3.5 foot tall grass. It didn't look like cows had been in it recently or anything like that, but above the grass and above the fence, I could see from about mid-chest up this large, brown, hairy thing walking towards me. And I just froze. I froze. I don't recall this. At this time, I was probably about 5, couldn't have been more than 6 years old. So I'd say 68 or 69. I was born in 63. So it was about 68 or 69. And I just remember freezing, scared to death. I didn't hear anything. There was no vocalization. I don't remember smelling anything. You know, over years, you hear all kinds of stories, and then you think, oh, yeah, I remember I smelled something, or, oh, I heard something. No, I remember it as plain as day. I could see this thing from mid-chest up walking towards the fence. It was scaring the crap out of me because I knew these fence posts had to be up about 6 feet in the air. And those planks had to be about, I would say, either 12 or 18-inch planks. And there were 5 or 6 of them going across those railroad ties. So I knew this was a tall fence. I would have estimated this thing to have been about 30 to 40 yards out past the fence. So I'm sitting there frozen, scared. I would have estimated probably no more than 30 to 45 seconds. And instead of going out to the garage to get my brothers who were in the garage playing, I ran back in the house and hid under the bunk beds.
I don't blame you.
5 of us boys in that house. So we had bunk beds in, I think, 2 different bedrooms to take care of us all. And so after a while, my brothers kind of thought, well, that's funny. Where's Paul? He said he was going to be right out. Let's go find him. They go searching through the house. They find me under the bed. And they say, what's going on? What's going on? And then I somehow mumbled out this story to them. And, you know, when you're 5 years old, you're thinking, you know, maybe 5 years later, you're thinking, was that real? Or did I just have a dream? Or, you know, what was going on? So I didn't talk about it a whole much growing up.
Yeah.
But as we grew up, the brothers, 2 would go live with our birth dad, and 3 of us lived with our stepdad. Mom was lucky enough to remarry a man, and a very good Christian man. I thought he should have had his head examined to marry some lady with 5 boys, but he was a loving man. He really was, Larry Bryant. And so years later, when the boys would get back together as we're older, probably when I'm in junior high or high school, actually, we'd all be together maybe when the planets align correctly, and we'd be telling stories and all kinds of stuff. And so I asked my brothers one time, I said, I remember something going on in Elmsburg with me and some monster or something. What do you guys recall? I said, oh yeah, you said it was a huge hairy monster out in the back of the field. I said, are you sure? And they said, yeah, you were scared. Beep, beep, beep.
Oh yeah.
Just all, you know. And so they reassured me, yeah, you were scared of something, and it took us a while to find you because we were expecting you to come out and you didn't come out there. So, but the thing of it was, there are things you remember from your childhood that don't ever leave your mind, and something like that was just burned into it. And never once after that, after speaking with my brothers, did I question that it had happened. It just wasn't something I brought up in regular conversation with people because my stepdad, we lived in Beaverton, Oregon for a while, and he worked in a business office downtown Portland and in a commodities trading company. And he brought home stories once in a while of talking about people that put on the wooden shoes and ran around in the snow making prints to try and, throw people off. And in the, Mount Hood area, so some of that went on like that. But I never did grow up as an outdoors person. But I always was intrigued by the stories, different stories that I heard growing up. I was really enthralled living in Oregon about a book on the Tillamook burn, the fires that happened around 1945, 1944, somewhere in there. But then one of those fires was started by a Japanese balloon bomb. And
really?
So that was an intriguing story in all of itself. But I would listen to the stories about Bigfoot and wonder about things. But it wasn't until later in my life when I was talking with my brothers, they confirmed that. And as a bucket list item in 2021, I believe it was, I went over to a get-together on the Oregon Cascade Range called Beachfoot. And it's a get-together for cryptozoologists, scientists, all kinds of people that study things about Bigfoot and have different things to add from different directions. And Todd Neese was the founder of this group. And the way that I got onto this, I was watching one of those kind of a Believe It or Not, or one of those episodes with
Unsolved Mysteries or something like that.
Yeah, something like that. The one with the guy that plays Captain Kirk. His name escaped.
Can't think of his name.
Yeah,
it's terrible.
You know who I'm talking about.
Yeah, I do.
Okay, well, it was like
William Shatner.
Yeah, Shatner. William
there you
Shatner.
go.
There we go. And he was featuring a show about Bigfoot, and I saw this Todd Neese come on. He was talking with him and saying, and each year we have a get together out in the Cascades of Washington, Cascade Range, and we invite all these people from around the world. It's a by invitation thing only, and they come in and they give presentations on sightings, stories, evidence they found, just all kinds of different things that kind of helps everybody piece together from different angles what it is about Bigfoot. And Todd's primate preserving agency that he started is designed to acknowledge the creature, establish a preserve or an area to set off so they can have their area to thrive and survive. And, it's not to hunt them down and chop them up and that kind of stuff. It's to recognize it as a species and to help preserve it. And when I went there, I took my oldest daughter with me because I had recently retired due to a disabling event in my life. And we drove over there. We pitched a tent. We just had a blast. Get up in the morning or having coffee, and we made my deluxe specialty, Spam pancakes.
Oh, hell yeah.
Oh, yeah. So you fry up the Spam so it's really crisp. You stir into the pancake batter. You throw in some corn in there, kernel corn, just out of a can, drain it. And then when you cook those off, then you put peanut butter and syrup on that. And if that doesn't keep you going for the day, I don't know what would.
Holy cow, I'm telling you, that sounds like a Bigfoot delicacy.
It is. And you remember Peter Byrne?
Yeah.
One of the
Four Horsemen.
He's a giant in Bigfoot research. I fed him one, and he liked it.
No doubt. That's amazing. You fed awesome. Peter Byrne. That's amazing.
Yeah.
I'm jealous.
But the neat thing about this get-together, and I think a lot of these get-togethers are like this, is they'll pitch a big campfire at night. Everybody sits around, moves around. You get to introduce yourself. You you meet somebody, where are you from? Oh, I'm from Southern Oregon. Okay, yeah. I'm over from Lewiston, Idaho with my daughter. This is Katie. And we exchange stories. This is, see what's going on. We met the nicest people. It was just a great 3-day event out there. It was hotter than heck up in, I thought the Cascade Range would be cool, but it was like 90, 98, 101 out
Holy
there.
cow.
But you're only like, half an hour from the coast and in between Corvallis and the coast of Oregon. So it was pretty neat. But I had to tell him my story once I heard about it on that Unsolved Mysteries or whatever show it was. I typed into my phone looking for Beachfoot, and Todd Neese's information came up. So I sent him an email saying, hey, I had an experience with Bigfoot when I was just a little kid in Ellensburg, Washington. I'd like to share it with you. And it wasn't 2 days later, I'm watching some show and the phone rings. My wife answers the phone. Yeah, just a minute. She says, honey, it's Todd Neese. And I'm looking at her like, what? Who? What? Turn the TV down. She hands me the phone.
That's a big phone call.
Yeah. It was a life-altering phone call. So he says, I'm Todd Neese, and I'm doing the research on Bigfoot. And you said you had a story. I'd like to hear it. So I told him mine. And I'd started out about, being that little kid in Ellensburg and getting frightened to death and freezing up and running back in the house. And he says, that sounds exactly like a lot of stories I've heard of people that have actually seen Bigfoot. And to me, the animal wasn't aggressive. He was just, I think he was as inquisitive about us as we are about him. And Todd said, well, let me tell you my story. And then he went and told me his. You'll have to look up his information, or maybe, have you spoken with him yet?
Actually, I called him one night. His wife answered the phone and said he was going to call me back, but I haven't got that call back. I need to call him back again. But he did send me his number. Problem. So I need to tell him, because I've had an experience too.
Yeah, so, I think you guys have hit it off.
Yeah.
So, so I mean, when I went to that camp, nobody looked at me like I was crazy.
Well, you're not crazy.
I know it. And I listened to their stories. One gentleman that really, really intrigued me was a plumber that lived in, I believe it is the last city on I-5 on the coastal highway going from Oregon into California.
Yeah.
And he works as a plumber in that town, but everybody knows him as the guy to come to with any Bigfoot stories. And so they would share with him their events, and he'd kind of put two and two together. Well, you were out here in this range in October hunting, and this guy was just across the canyon in that same area a couple weeks later, and you both heard vocalizations and different things going on. So, it corroborates different people's stories that are going on. But he actually befriended the Forest Service employees down in that part in the Rogue River area of Southern Oregon. And he came to their office at one time. They usually have at the Forest Service, they have a map with all the campgrounds that show which ones are open, which ones are closed for maintenance and this kind of thing. And so he looked over the map, and they said, well, that's our map out here. And they said, you want to come back and see our other map? And he goes, what are you talking about? He says, come back here a minute. So they come back there, and they've got another map, same campground spotted on there, but there's different pins in different areas going on. And he said, what's this? He said, well, each of those pins is a confirmed sighting or some sort of event involving Bigfoot. And he said, when you come to these campgrounds, at times you'll see a sign that may say Campground 6G closed for maintenance. And they say, well, it may not be just maintenance. We might be rebuilding the place because something came in and tore the concrete seated picnic tables out of the ground and that kind of stuff. But many a story of people, feeling their their trailer get rocked while they're there at night and all kinds of stuff. But I'm just enthralled with Bigfoot. And since I went over there to that meeting on the east edge of Portland, Cliff,
Barrickman?
Cliff, Cliff, the guy
Brackman?
from Barrickman, he has a museum on the east side of
Yeah.
Portland.
I actually
So
met him. I got my license plate. He gave me a free, it says the Bigfoot research or his museum. I've got a license plate.
That's awesome. I bought a sign from there that looked like a forest park sign.
Yeah.
And it said, "I'm a Bigfoot researcher myself," or something like that.
That's cool.
I'm going to hang it up in the garage one of these days.
There you go.
But it just really has enthralled me. I always, now when I get around in a group sometimes, or in a talk on Facebook or people locally, I usually ask, "Hey, has anybody had any Bigfoot sightings or any stories on Bigfoot that we can share, we can talk to with each other?" So I'm trying to do a little research. I know at one time above the Clearwater River Casino, there was a sighting of Bigfoot near Lewiston here.
Wow.
Just something was up there on the hillside and was just pitching a fit, throwing dirt and straw and all kinds of stuff up in the air, like it was really PO'd about something. But there's been a few around here. So Lewiston, Idaho, where I live, would be on the east side of the Snake River, and Clarkston, Washington is on the west side of the Snake River. So the river is the border between the two states, and just not too far into Washington, you'll find the range of the Blue Mountains outside Walla Walla, and they have big stories of Bigfoot in those ranges. He's just this Northwest. I have lived here most of my life. Born in Yakima, lived in Spokane, lived in Beaverton, Oregon, lived in Lewiston,
cool.
Idaho, and it's all been Washington, Oregon, Idaho is where I've lived, and I love these states.
That's very cool. So one of my last guests, I think it was actually the last episode that dropped, was Mel Scahan. Yeah. And that was, and I'm enjoying this one too. But he was a great interview too, and he's getting ready to do that Yakima Bigfoot convention. Which when you brought up Yakima, I'm like, really? I didn't realize that you were from there. Yeah. That's so cool. But you live in Idaho now.
I do. Yeah.
Yeah. So
I remember as little kids. We all remember way back when we were kids, and we didn't lock the doors, and we ran all over, kicked the can in 6 different neighborhoods around the house, that kind of stuff. And it was like when the street lights came on, you knew it was time to head home, that kind of stuff. But I remember a bicycle and riding all over Yakima to go out to visit my grandpa and grandma. They lived out on an area that was a migrant workers farm camp. And so back in the day, they hosted many migrant workers that would come up, and Yakima is a big agricultural area. Apples, cherries, pears, all kinds of fruit and produce growing there. I remember going just down to Nob Hill Boulevard, and across the street, there's railroad tracks, and the train would come by, and the conductor would toss us an apple. And we'd just sit there and watch him go by. And, it was all laid back. It was just a nice time. But just back then when we were little guys, we could run all over the place and not feel some of the terrible things that happen these days anyways. So.
Yeah. Well, I know. I think I'd rather be in the Bigfoot element than in the real world anymore.
Yeah.
So
go ahead.
And I was going to say, so when you went to Beachfoot and you talked to Todd Neese, and I think the first time we talked, did you say you talked to Bob Gimlin too? Or
Bob Gimlin wasn't there that time.
Oh, he wasn't. Okay.
No. But there were a few others. Who's the guy that did the Sierra Sounds?
Oh, gosh, dang it.
Was it Ron?
Ron Moorhead. Yeah, Ron Moorhead.
He was there. He was
Okay.
there with us.
So
Just some pretty.
really,
I
did you
didn't
get to talk to him
know
at
some of
all?
these people were such big level names in the
I know.
Bigfoot research. And once you sit and you go somewhere and then you come home, you see their picture and going, "That's him. Yeah, I sat by him. I spoke with him."
I know, I know. Well, Ron Moorhead actually, his sounds are the thing that finally put my pieces together in my puzzle. Because
Yeah,
when I heard the things I heard, I was like, what the hell did I just hear? And then I
yeah,
went on the internet. Thank goodness for the internet,
yeah,
and I was like, and I'm like, that's what I heard. That's what I heard. So
yeah.
I get it. I get it. No, yeah, that's that man. I'm kind of jealous you went to Beachfoot. I want to go.
Yeah.
So
But yeah, that experience in the Ellensburg that I had, I got to put a pin in Cliff Barrickman's map
did you
for
really?
the first person to have one in Ellensburg.
Really?
Yep.
That's so cool.
So
So if
I
I ever
got to do
make it
that.
to the museum, I'm going to see your pin on
Yeah.
there. Did they let
Yep.
you put your name on it, or is it just a pin?
Just a pin.
Oh
Yeah.
man, I've been like, put my name on
Yeah.
that sucker.
But the thing that stood out with me with my Bigfoot experience was looking at that creature and seeing his upper body. If I'm looking at a 6-foot fence and I can see a good 3.5 feet or so more of something coming at me 30 yards away, this thing had to be 9-10 feet tall, at least. And I remember it having muscles, being kind of a dark, rusty brown color. But like I said, no vocalizations came out of my mind. I didn't feel like something was talking inside my head or anything like that. I was just frozen
yeah.
for a while until I could kind of shake free and run back in the house. And then my body was saying, "Hide, hide, hide."
Well,
And
I don't blame your body. I don't blame your body
yeah,
for saying that. But a lot of times, I mean, honestly, a lot of people don't report a smell. I think a smell,
yeah,
from what I've heard, only happens in like 10% of the cases.
yeah,
I might be wrong with
yeah,
that, but I think that I'm fairly close. Um,
sure,
so I think the smell comes a lot sometimes with more. I don't know. This is my own personal opinion, with aggression maybe, and maybe since
yeah,
this thing was just walking through a field and saw a little kid. And
yeah.
do you think it saw you, or do you
Oh,
think, oh, it
it
looked
saw
at
me.
you?
Yeah,
Yeah.
it looked at me and I was looking at it and we were just kind of locked
Oh wow.
in on each other. He didn't, speed up, he did stop, but he didn't speed up or, turn or anything. He definitely wasn't scared of me.
Wow.
So I just, you see something like that, your brothers tell you about the boogeyman under the bed and these kind of things all the time, and try to make up stories, but this was not a story. This
Well,
was
you know what's funny about the boogeyman thing? Down here in Missouri, we call them boogers. And down in the South, we call them boogers, which
okay.
boogeyman.
Yeah, exactly.
I mean, it kind of lines up a little bit, but yeah, that's the old school boogeyman. It's a
Yeah.
booger. So when I mean, I know it was a long, long time ago,
hmm
but do you remember any like facial features? Did it look more apish or humanish or somewhere in between? Or can you remember? I mean, I'm not trying to put you on the spot.
No, I understand. Remembering back, to me, it looked, I would say, more apish than it looked like a man. Just because it did have that pointed head type thing, but
Yeah.
yeah, and I don't remember like glowing eyes or angry eyes or any certain color of eyes. I just remember seeing big eyes,
Yeah.
and it just you see something like that, and it just freaks you out.
What time of the day was it? I don't know if we caught that part.
I would say either shortly before or right after noon. I don't think we'd
Oh
had lunch
wow.
yet or anything. Yeah.
Oh
So
wow.
it was
Middle of the
midday. This
day.
thing, yeah. And
That's
that's when we were, allowed to go out and play in the garage and that
that's
kind of
very
stuff.
cool. That's very cool
And
because I mean a lot of sightings happen at night and people think they're nocturnal, but man, there's a lot of sightings during the day, and
yeah.
I mean you're evidence of one. That's
And
very cool.
I know it was coming towards me, and I know he had to be coming from the north because the sunlight was all over the front of him. It wasn't, I would have, something I would have recalled is if he was coming in the shadows and that kind of thing.
Yeah.
But I know that the back of our house faced north and the front of the house was facing south. So, and they had to go out the east side to get to the west side garage. I remember all of that in great detail. We lived there for a little while. And in fact, Mom tried to line up the Big Brothers program for us. So we'd each have a Big Brother sponsor that would come out of the community and take us to a basketball game or something like that.
Yeah.
So it's just it's some good times from back when we were little farts, but
yeah.
you just got to scratch your head sometimes and, was that real?
Well, I guarantee it was real. I don't know. I mean, I can't guarantee it, but in my heart, I believe it was real. Because, I mean, with so many people out there to see these beings, it's like not everybody is making it up. You can't everybody be making it up. Somebody's got to be telling the truth, and I
exactly
100% believe you. I had another question on my mind. I done forgot it.
Well, something popped into my head. I thought, why didn't you go out in the field and look afterwards to see, did you see any signs or anything like that? At 5 years old, you're not that brave.
Yeah.
And my brothers don't remember ever, we never really went that far with it, other than you were scared, we're here to protect you type of thing. You're okay. You're going to be all right. But now I wish I'd, had the wherewithal to
investigate a little bit,
gone out and looked at it.
Yeah,
and, look
at
for
5, I don't
crushed
think
down grass.
Yeah, I don't think I'd have done that either. But I do remember my question now. So, did you ever have anything weird? Besides deciding, did anything out of place happen around there that made you think maybe it was there constantly, or do you think maybe? And I know you don't know for sure.
Yeah.
But do you think maybe it was just passing through, or?
I feel certain that they were around for quite a while. That's kind of the same area that the story of Mel's Hole. The story of Mel's Hole from Ellensburg.
No, give it to me.
Oh, dude. Who's the guy coast to coast who had the radio program?
Art Shell.
Coast to coast.
Art Shell. Isn't that Art Shell? I think.
Art Shell, yeah. Art Shell, that's it. He got on with this Mel from Ellensburg, and Mel talked like he was going freaking nuts. He said, I've got this hole on my property, and I've been going to it to kind of check things out, and my dogs won't even come close to it. We get near it and they turn around and run. And he said he would talk to his neighbors about this place before it became his property. The neighbors said everybody used it as a trash hole. They don't know where the hole came from. They could throw all kinds of stuff in there. They never heard stuff hit the bottom. It never filled up. It was just this 12, 14 feet across hole. And it looked like it had bricks coming around the top 15, 20 feet that kind of shored up so the thing wouldn't cave in.
Collapse, yeah.
But he started researching it, and he would take some kind of device and put it on a fishing pole and let line out. He'd, get to 200, 300 yards, and that'd be the end of his line. And then he'd get some more line and tie that together and let more out. He got to like 1,500 yards of line down in the hole, and still it wasn't hitting the bottom of anything.
Oh, wow.
And he got to studying it, and sometimes there would be strange lights coming out of it, and just all kinds of things. There was a story about one of his neighbors whose dog died. He threw the dog in the hole, and about 2 days later, the dog was walking around the guy's property again.
What?
It came back to life. And it was like, there's all these stories. And then he got to, the government found out that he was reporting this to come on. They somehow got onto his property and were threatening him. And somehow he had to either leave the country or the government would make things difficult for him or something. Look up Mel's Hole. Look that up on YouTube. And just look at the background stories on that. He ended up going down to Arizona or New Mexico or somewhere to speak with some Native Americans down there, because they had a similar hole or something going on, and they wanted to lower. He wanted them to lower him into the hole, and they said no, we won't do that. But they put a goat down in a container in the box into the hole. And it whatever was going on down there, they didn't have it down there very far. I think one of two things. I think it cooked this thing from the inside out.
Oh my gosh.
Radioactivity or something that was going on. But there were some stories about the strange kind of not a snake-like beast, but some kind of a very fat, rounded creature that would come up, and it could speak to
maybe
the
like
Indians.
a death worm or something.
Yeah, something weird. It's just I mean, it just makes the hair crawl on my back when I hear about that story. Yeah. But yeah, I'm thinking, man, I was around all this stuff and I didn't know about it.
Well, my producer Dirty over here just pulled it up, and we'll add it on to the end of this episode so people can check it out. That's so cool. Yeah. That is so cool.
But yeah, man, as far as your question of Bigfoot being around, I think this thing was exploring its options of still trying to kind of feel out where his boundaries still remained, with the towns growing bigger and bigger, and especially with all the secrecy of the study of the atom bomb out there in the middle of Washington. And there's a big bombing range right outside Yakima that the Army experiments with, and all kinds of things. So there's just a lot of mystery to some of those areas that people aren't allowed into.
Huh. That's intriguing. I mean, yes. Very intriguing. Man, oh man. Yep. Honestly, makes me feel sorry for the Bigfoot, because, and I'm sure that's the Bigfoot are out there. I mean, in my mind, I believe they're out there. I believe they're out there, and they're out there trying to be secluded, and then we're out there as humans, just destroying everything around them, and man, oh man. I mean, just it's a bad path for them. I feel bad, because I think that's why, in my mind, and like I said, everything that I say on this podcast is my own thoughts. I'm not I'm not pulling up data or anything like that, but I think the reason there's so many more sightings now is because their territory is shrinking. I mean, it's shrinking. Yeah. And they've got nowhere to go. I mean, I can't even imagine how you felt as a 5-year-old kid seeing a freaking 10-foot tall I don't want to call it a monster. I mean, I'm sure it looked like a monster. It's
Yeah, a creature out there.
creature, because it wasn't aggressive. It didn't try
Hmm.
to come at you.
No.
It was
Yeah.
just like walking through a field, just like any other person might be doing, but it was a Sasquatch.
Hmm.
But it didn't hurt you, but it
No.
scared the hell out of you.
Yeah.
which,
Yeah.
you know,
You
which,
know, and for years, when I've had some spare time, I'll try and look up stories, especially when YouTube came around and some other stuff like that. And I could pull up old newspaper stories about different things that were going on. A massive windstorm that hit Northern California years ago and part of Southern Oregon caused down trees all over the place. So they had to hire logging crews to go in and clear some of these areas. And I remember pulling up an article about a story of a logging crew they were moving these large logs to get them out of the area and reuse them for resources for lumber and things like that. And they pulled one log up, and there was a dead Bigfoot under one of them. They got crushed by a tree. And so they reported it to the local Forest Service. The Forest Service came in, they reported it up the chain. A group from, I'm not sure if it was Washington, D.C. or somewhere from the government came out. They confiscated the body of this thing, took it away, and the Forest Service folks never heard of it again and were told not to speak of it. And so for a number of years, it's my feeling, just like the Area 51 incident, there are things that happen that the government kind of cleans up the situation, sterilizes everything, and makes everybody not talk about it. But there's a lot of things that happen, and people are starting to come out of their shells to know that there's more of us and there is more of them. And I don't wear a tinfoil hat, and I'm not, there's a few things that I believe that are going on right now that I've lived through that don't seem true to what the government tells us about it. And I'll keep it at that for now. But
okay.
there is so much going on that, if you study what you're watching as it's happening, and then somebody comes back and tells you something else, you're going, nah, that's not how I recall seeing it, And it's the government has a good way of doing that. If you tell a lie often enough, everybody will start to believe the lie. Well, there's some of us that have that common sense to go, no, you're not gonna pull that over my eyes. So we just have to be, share our stories together, see where we have common points, and understand that not everybody's also always truthful about what they're trying to make us believe.
Exactly. So, I get where you're coming from, because they want to put out a truth that's not the truth, but it seems sane.
Yeah.
But it makes the people that are telling the actual truth seem insane.
Yeah.
So
I'd say that goes with the airline pilots that have been silenced for years, and even the Air Force personnel that have been silenced for years about saying anything they've seen up in the skies that wasn't on the books.
Yep.
So,
Yeah. So don't always go with the mainstream. Sometimes you gotta believe yourself instead of what everybody else is saying, because there's a lot more people out there saying things that are actually happening.
Yeah.
But because we're not part of this or that, we're deemed crazy. And yeah, I got you. I got you, Paul. I got you. I like where you're coming from, because, man, that's the whole point of this podcast, is for people to get out there and tell what happened to them, what they saw. They're not crazy. They're just regular people like you and me,
Yeah.
And just because we're not a government official doesn't mean we're lying. Actually,
No.
I think if you're a government official, it's more or less likely that you're lying. I'm just saying.
Yeah, yeah.
I shouldn't probably say that, but
Well,
they'll be knocking
it's
on my
hard
door
because
in 5 minutes.
they are subject to a lot of high security stuff, and they can't share, and we understand that.
Yeah.
But some of this stuff needs to be common knowledge. They think they may be protecting us from something. We're big boys. We grew up. We put our pants on one leg at a time, just like they do.
Yep.
Let us see what you have, and we can prepare or whatever we want to do, but it doesn't mean you have to hide everything from us.
Wouldn't that be the better option, to let us know what the hell we're up against?
I think so.
Instead of saying, hey, it ain't there. Until it's right there in our face.
Look, swamp gas.
Bigfoot doesn't exist. Wait a minute, I just saw it. So
that was Venus reflecting off your trash can.
Yeah.
Yeah, right.
So, do you have anything other than Bigfoot tales to share? Or, I mean...
Oh, there's lots that intrigues me.
Come on. All right, give us a little more. We got a little time left. Give us a little more.
UFOs. I follow Tyler on Secure Team 10. Tyler is a podcaster that does a story. He has a lot of stuff about the moon, different photos of things that have craters that have these glass coverings over the top of them, like they're, like a greenhouse type thing, or
oh wow,
some guy. Looks like there's crashed spaceship on the surface in different areas and stuff, and they're starting to find all kinds of different stuff on Mars, and that seem to back up some of those kind of stories. But UFO stuff, I'm intrigued with that.
Have you ever seen one?
I have not seen one myself.
I think I have.
Right. Have you? Good.
Yeah.
That's cool.
Go back in the episodes, you can actually listen to where I told about it.
I will. I watched your first one.
Yeah. My first one was about, and I know everybody's always like, well, if you got more than one story, you're crazy. No, I've had more than one story because I've seen more than one thing.
Yeah.
And I'm observant. It's not like I have a million Bigfoot stories, and it's not like I have a million UFO stories. I've had like this and this.
Yeah.
So but I guarantee Bigfoot's real. I guarantee. You know what? And that's me saying it. I guarantee UFOs are real. The government is now finally saying it. When are they going to say Bigfoot's real?
Well, the thing that really intrigued me about going to that Beachfoot is Todd Neese said it. I can take a piece of bark, like a scale of bark that's 10 inches by 12 inches. I can go out, and in 45 minutes, I can fill this thing with food that we could survive off of.
Yeah.
Different roots, different things that, he could bring back. And if I can do that in 45 minutes, a creature like Bigfoot could sit out there forever and live off of stuff just from the ground, besides the fish in the river and the deer and the elk and all those things. So it's just really kind of intriguing that, we think, oh, this is modern day society and everything's got to live off of cheeseburgers and this kind of stuff. And no, there's plenty out there. And the Pacific, or the Olympic National Forest in Washington, is massive, and it has such a diversity of ferns and all kinds of different plants and things out there that it's amazing. That's what I would love about when I lived in Oregon. We'd go on field trips, and we'd go out to the forest, or we'd go down to the ocean, or went over to John Day fossil beds in eastern Oregon, and did some chipping away at rocks, and we'd find fossilized ferns and things like that.
That's so cool.
Just really interesting stuff. We were sitting around a campfire one night. We were 5th or 6th graders, and telling, those nighttime stories. So everybody's kind of on edge. And these two, must have been F-14s or something, come screaming overhead, scared the bejesus out of us. Some of us lost our marshmallows. You might say. But yeah, just, little things like that happen when you're a young kid, you're very impressionable, but they sure stick with you.
Yeah. Man, oh man. You know what, Paul? It has been so much fun talking to you tonight. You know
I've
what?
enjoyed it.
I've got to have you back on because I know you got more stuff to tell.
Oh,
I
fine.
already know you do.
Yeah.
I already know
Yeah.
you do. So much fun talking to you. And I feel like we're friends now
We are.
because we've
Yep.
talked more than once. So is there anything you want to promote or anything you want to say before we get off the air?
Well, currently I'm a double amputee below the knees on both legs. Last week, as I informed you, I went down to Texas to a place called Martin Bionics. I hope you don't mind me pitching them.
No, pitch them.
Okay. They're a place that does prosthetics for people. Instead of the traditional hard fiberglass shell that you put your stump into and hold on with these rubberized sleeves and stuff, they have kind of a better system. You still have a sleeve that you put your leg into, and then you put it down into it's kind of a split cup, but that has cinches on it, and it'll cinch down in like two different areas, which tightens this thing up to hold on to your leg a lot more secure than the other method that I used. Because I had one leg amputated in June of 22 and one in April of this year. And the June of 22 one, I've had the most experience with the prosthetic that I originally had, which was the cup that you put it on. And I just going down there and practicing just for a week with these two new prosthetics, one for each leg, I felt they were more comfortable. They were more steady. I'm scheduling some outpatient therapy right now. The way that I got down there is the lady from Martin Bionics, I had called her the first time in 22 about my first one. She said, well, we only have clinics in 3 states, Florida, Oklahoma, and Texas. And I said, I don't know if I can afford a trip down to there. But this time around, she said, well, what if travel wasn't the issue? I said, what are you talking about? She said, there's a group called Mercy Medical Angels. If you live more than 50 miles away from your medical appointment, and if you meet their financial criteria, they will assist you with either gas cards, bus, train, plane, airfare, private pilots, whatever. They'll get you a round trip back and forth to that appointment. And they allow you to take a caregiver with you. So I took my oldest daughter, Katie, with me. We left on the 11th of August, got back on the Saturday, the 17th, I think it was, a week later. But we got down there. Katie was my Uber's logistics person. She arranged for the transportation back and forth wherever we needed to go. But yeah, they are just marvelous therapists. They get you up, they give you confidence, and they can tell if you have a heart into what you're doing. And they were encouraging me, telling me, you're strong, you're doing this really well. So I enjoyed getting my 2 new legs. After a couple more weeks, this Mercy Medical Group, they'll let you go back once a month to whatever clinic,
facility,
hospital, wherever you need to go back and for further education on what you're doing. So praise God that they covered the airfare round trip for Katie and myself. I think we had a small processing fee of $49 each for the round trip ticket, but we went down there. We went to the clinic each day. Was just encouraged every day by what I was learning, and I'm getting to know my legs better and get them underneath me. Oh, and we got to pick out the fabric for the shell of these things.
Yeah, you showed me. You sent me a picture.
I sent you a
it
photo.
Was so cool. Yeah.
And
it was patriotic. I loved it.
Yeah.
Yeah.
They said you can go to Joanne's Fabrics and pick out your fabric, what you want. And so Katie and I went over there, and I was thinking patriotic. So I saw the samples they sent me were red, white, and blue, like a flag. And I got to the red, white, and blue section, and I saw the Declaration of Independence and stuff to support that. And so I said, if that's good enough foundation for our country, that's a good enough foundation for me to get my freedom back to
Hell yeah.
So
hell yeah, brother.
So anyway, I just want to thank you for this time together with you and your fans. This has been another bucket list item. I want to get this out there and just let people know, don't be so scared to share this information, because there's a lot of people out there that'll believe you.
I know, dude, and I got your back, and we're friends now because of this subject, and I'm so thankful that I met you, and
It's awesome.
and props to the people that helped you. You know what?
Yeah.
We'll put them up at the end of the podcast, and man, I'm glad I have a new friend in life. You know what?
I love you, man. If you can make it out to the Bigfoot Con in Yakima, you let me know. We'll try and get together. We'll set something
up. Brother. We're gonna do it. We gotta do it.
Yeah. Yep.
All right.
That'd be awesome.
Well, I want to thank you, Paul, again for being on with us tonight. My producer, Dirty, thanks you as well. And you know what, everybody? If you got a story to tell, you can come on here and tell me. Contact me on YouTube. Get a hold of me on the internet. We've got a Gmail site, and you can be on here just like Paul and tell your story and get everything out there. But hey, you know what? Everybody, keep it creepy.
Cryptid Quest is where it's at.
Hell yeah. Love it.
Shadows creep. I'm trying to find a legend that the people keep. Bigfoot's the name, got a story to tell. Footprints in the mud, can't you hear the bell? Whispers in the night, can you feel that chill? Bigfoot on the run, he's a legend, keep it real. Bigfoot, yeah, he's the talk of the town. Creeping through the trees, never wearing a frown. Legend of the forest, he's got a big stride. As the trap beats thump, you know he's got pride. Like I'm on a quest, searching for the homie, you know he's the best. Got my camera ready, heightened senses on blast. Snap a shot of Sasquatch, legend unsurpassed. Eyes in the dark, you can't catch what you can't see. King of the woods, living wild and free. Bigfoot, yeah, he's the talk of the town. Creeping through the trees, never wearing a frown. Legend of the forest, he's got a big stride. As the trap beats thump, you know he's got pride.